We are a week away from UFC 304, and it's time for me to give my breakdown and predictions for every single fight on this card. It's an amazing card. I usually look forward to a daytime card when the UFC goes to the UK. Unfortunately, we're not getting one of those, so we're going to have another late night card, but it is what it is. Even the prelims are incredible for UFC 304, and we have two title fights. That's right, two title fights. Even though there's an interim belt on the line in the heavyweight matchup, I'm going to consider that a real title. Either way, without further ado, the timestamps are in the description if you guys want to hear a take of mine on a particular one of these fights. But let's start with the first fight of the night. Modestas Bukauskas versus Marcin Prachnio. I think a lot of people are picking Modestas Bukauskas here, and I think it's honestly because they've seen some footage of him in Tom Aspinall training, and by association, because he's been in a Tom Aspinall vlog, that means he's going to beat Marcin Prachnio. Now, I know Marcin Prachnio is not the toughest test to get past, but we're talking about Modestas, okay? We're talking about Modestas. I've butchered that name too many times, but, you know, this guy got his knee blown out by Khalil Roundtree, and that's not necessarily a big knock on his skill set, but the other guy beat Khalil Roundtree. All right, Marcin Prachnio outstruck Khalil Roundtree, and every now and then, Marcin Prachnio has surprised us. He surprised me with his kickboxing. I actually picked against him in his last fight because I said that this guy goes into his fights and it looks like he's half asleep. It looks like he doesn't want to be there. But I actually saw a lot of hustle in his game in his last time out. And fair enough, he gassed out against Devin Clark in the third round. But Devin Clark is one of those guys where if you gas out in front of him, he's going to be the one barreling forward, right? I don't think Modestas Bukauskas has that super aggressive style to take advantage of a slowing down Marcin Prachnio if Prachnio tires out. And I think in the early rounds, I've been more impressed with Marcin Prachnio than I have been with Modestas, and I'm going to pick him to win. You know, Modestas, he got cut from the UFC, which was brutal after that horrible injury he had in the Khalil Roundtree fight, and he got a bunch of Cage Warriors wins, and since then, you know, he's not been that special. I mean, both of these guys got beat by Vitor Petrino, but Marcin Prachnio did a little bit better against Vitor Petrino. And even though he's a little older than Bukauskas, I'm trusting in Prachnio to get this one done. I just think his kickboxing is a little bit more trustworthy, even though he's the older guy. It is light heavyweight, so it won't make that big of a difference if he's like 36, you know what I mean? So let's get into the next one. Sam Patterson versus Kiefer Crosbie. So Kiefer Crosbie got subbed by Kevin Jousset, who is one of the better prospects in the UFC. Sam Patterson, he's the old ghoul from the UK. He's, you know, pale as a ghost, blind as a bat. We were saying this guy had brittle bones, and we were saying, you know, this guy got chinned easily in his first fight. He's like a typical, he's actually at welterweight now. Never mind. I was going to say his first fight was at lightweight, and he was 6'3" in the lightweight division, which means he's not going to have a good chin. Now he's at welterweight, and he's fighting Kiefer Crosbie. So right off the bat, skill gap going into this. He's going to have the skill advantage by being used to being the lighter man. So I think just based on that alone, that's a reason to pick him. But also, Kiefer Crosbie got choked out in the first round against Kevin Jousset, who took him down and easily choked him out, took his back pretty easily. Sam Patterson did exactly that in his last fight against Johan Lainesse. I forget if he dropped Johan Lainesse or whatnot, but either way, he got the back of Johan Lainesse in the first round and choked him out pretty easily. Sam Patterson, rangy, right? He's going to be a lot more durable since he doesn't have to cut as much weight. So I think he's going to be more durable. I think the grappling skill advantage from lightweight to welterweight is going to be there. And I think Sam Patterson is going to win this fight with the grappling and the long rangy striking. I was not impressed with Kiefer Crosbie's first performance. So let's get on to the next one. I'm picking Sam Patterson. Oban Elliott versus Preston Parsons. I'm going to go with Preston Parsons. Okay, Oban Elliott, he's very slow on the feet, incredibly slow on the feet. And I did pick him to beat Val Woodburn, but even against Val Woodburn, he was getting rocked. And fair enough, Val Woodburn's a guy that can throw a lot of power into his punches, but he's not even UFC caliber. Oban Elliott won that fight totally by dominating the ground game, but he's up against another solid grappler in Preston Parsons. And I think Preston Parsons is a little bit better than him on the feet. And I don't see Oban Elliott dominating Preston Parsons on the ground. And I just think that the difference is going to be on the feet in this fight. And I actually think Preston Parsons is stronger than Oban Elliott too, so it's going to be really difficult for Oban Elliott to outgrapple him. I'll go with Preston Parsons to win this by decision. Let's get on to the next one. Mick Parkin versus Lukas Brzeski. I'm going to go with Lukas Brzeski. I'm joking. I wish I could pick a fellow Lukas, but I can't. I'm going with Mick Parkin. I can't wait to see Mick Parkin lose. It's not because I dislike Mick Parkin. It's just because I'm tired of these like British commentators just in passing saying things like, he's the next big thing out of the UK when he's walking out. And he's beaten Muhammad Usman, who I should have picked him to win that fight. By the way, I picked against Usman, and he lost his last fight too. You know you're not that good when you're picking Patterson to beat Usman. Patterson beat Usman. Mick Parkin's win over Usman ain't aging that well. Mick Parkin is slow. He has no ability to finish you. He's a big heavyweight that's big for nothing because all he does is throw lead leg kicks and little pitter-pat jabs. He's relatively high fight IQ. You could tell that he's definitely the more technical, the better thinking man out there, and with all that training that he's doing with Tom Aspinall, definitely. But, you know, this guy's big for nothing. He's got no power. He's got no pop. He's not aggressive. And you may think, well, Lukas Brzeski won't be able to win this. You know, he was able to beat a monster like Walter Walker, but Walter Walker was a literal walrus, very slow, trudging forward, probably the plottiest fighter I've ever seen in my entire life. So Lukas Brzeski, just because he beat Walter Walker, doesn't mean he's beating Mick Parkin, right? Lukas Brzeski tired out against Walter Walker, and it wasn't even that physical of a fight. He was winning the striking exchanges. I think he's going to put up a better fight than Muhammad Usman. Lukas Brzeski is going to be a little bit more aggressive than Muhammad Usman. I just think Mick Parkin's going to be a little bit too smart for him. Mick Parkin's smart. He's a smart fighter. He's crafty, but I think he loses his next fight. I think once you get him in there with a guy like Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Mick Parkin's probably getting flatline KO'd. So this ain't going to be the one. Mick Parkin's still going to win. He's going to be going to the Apex after this. I believe that they have a jet that's going to be outside the stadium, outside the O2 Arena, revving up to head to Vegas to bring him to the Apex to give him a cryogenic chamber. If Mick Parkin gets a finish, he gets to stay in the UK. Otherwise, Mick Parkin, you better enjoy the last couple of weeks training with Tom Aspinall because that's not going to be the case in a couple of weeks from now if you just go to a measly decision. But Mick Parkin's going to get it done. The commentators are going to be glazing this guy. And yeah, Mick Parkin by decision. Just a little bit craftier, a little bit craftier. He's going to have those outside leg kicks. He's going to be moving. He's awkward. He's awkward and he's hard to hit, right? And he doesn't leave himself out there. I think he's a little bit too technical for Lukas Brzeski. So let's get on to the next one. Caolan Loughran versus Jake Hadley. Jake Hadley stepping in on short notice for this fight. You know what? I'm going to go with Caolan Loughran. I'm picking Caolan Loughran to win this fight. I understand that Jake Hadley's last loss to Charles Johnson doesn't look that bad because Charles Johnson just went out there and had the performance of his lifetime and looked incredible, looked like a ranked fighter against Joshua Van. But the reason I'm picking against Jake Hadley is because his fight IQ is terrible. You know, this guy's down 2 rounds to Charles Johnson. He probably needs a KO, and he's out here shooting takedowns in the 3rd round, like desperation takedowns in the 3rd round when he needs a KO, when he needs a finish. Okay, and you could say, well, we're just going for the submission, man. Well, it ain't going to fucking work. Okay? Jake Hadley is out here losing to Cody Durden, and at the time, that loss didn't look so bad, but Cody Durden just lost, man, and I just think he's low output. I think that his wins, his TKO body shot wins, where we were talking about the power of Jake Hadley and how he's got so much power for a flyweight, they're over guys like, you know, Malcolm Gordon. I think Caolan Loughran, he's got stubby arms. Everything Caolan does is stubby. He's like he's a tree root basically. He's a stump, but the stump can fight. And I believe that Caolan Loughran and his stubby, stumpy style is going to be able to win this fight because he's so tough, he's durable, and he's stubborn, and he's high output. I mean, I think he landed like well over 100 strikes in his last fight, which was a 3-rounder, and he was getting his nose busted up. I mean, Caolan Loughran's very stubby. He doesn't have the best boxing. He's there to be hit. Jake Hadley will hit him. He'll hit him to the body, and, you know, there were moments in the 3rd round where Caolan was getting rocked, and things were getting a little bit hairy, but he will shoot a takedown. You know, Caolan Loughran has hustle. He's got heart. He's got output. And I don't think that Jake Hadley has the output. I don't think he's got the IQ. I don't think he's got the hustle. I think that just with pure grit and determination, Caolan Loughran is going to win this fight. with a little bit more, as I keep saying, hustle, with a little bit more output. He's got a good chin, and I don't see him getting easily out-grappled. He's got a very strong base. Okay, so I'm going to go with Caolan Loughran by decision. Let's get on to the next one. Molly McCann versus Bruna Brasil. Now, this one is an absolute bopper. It's an absolute banger because Molly McCann is the most entertaining WMMA fighter on the planet. And I'm picking Molly McCann to win. Does it matter? Not really. I mean, if she loses, it's still going to be entertaining. Either she gets tapped out in the first, or she gets KO'd in the first, or she gets a KO. The reason why I'm picking Molly McCann is because Bruna Brasil hasn't shown dominant grappling in her UFC career. She's like a Muay Thai girl. You know, she's a Thai striker. And Molly McCann has pop on the feet. Molly McCann hits hard. And Molly McCann's going to have the crowd on her side. She's going to be the hometown favorite. And she just, you know, she steps up to plate when she's in a position like this. So I think Molly McCann's going to go out there and wail on Bruna Brasil and just fucking take it to her and impose her will. And that's the big difference maker in WMMA when you have someone that has power like Molly McCann and your typical striker like Bruna Brasil. Like Bruna Brasil has a couple of KOs, but Molly McCann is consistently KOing people who don't KO her first. And I just think that she's not going to get KO'd first. She's not easily going to get out-grappled in this one. So for that reason, I think that Molly McCann is going to win this by a nasty KO. Spinning back fist, flying knee, whatever it takes, she's going to get it done. That's my pick. Let's get on to the next one. Daniel Pineda versus Nathaniel Wood. Now, Nathaniel Wood is a really solid fighter. All right, Nathaniel Wood, he has beat Charles Jourdain, which hasn't aged that well to be fair, but still like a pretty decent win overall. But Daniel Pineda has had some really underwhelming losses, and I'm just going to bring them up. Alex Caceres, right? And who else? Herbert Burns. He's got a win over Herbert Burns in round 2. Herbert Burns is like the biggest quitter on the planet. He has no gas tank at all. I think Daniel Pineda's wins aren't that great. I think his loss to Alex Caceres is not that great. I think Nathaniel Wood beats Alex Caceres. I honestly do. Nathaniel Wood's well-rounded. He can shoot takedowns. He's got great clinch striking. Even though he's a little bit small for the division, he's lean. He's not like a fat Jack Shore, right? He's got a weight cut. He's actually cutting weight. He's still lean for this division. Daniel Pineda, in my opinion, is just a cut below everywhere. He's a cut below in the grappling. He's a cut below in the striking. He's a cut below in the speed. This is former bantamweight skill versus featherweight mediocrity, okay? And I'm going with former bantamweight skill to win this fight. I'm going with Nathaniel Wood to win this fight on the feet pretty handily. I think Pineda will be dangerous early because he's got power, but I think that if Nathaniel Wood survives the first round, I think he's going to start mincing up Daniel Pineda in the clinch exchanges at range. He's going to be hammering him with low kicks, and I think Nathaniel Wood's just going to win this via decision. Let's get on to the next one. Muhammad Mokaev versus Manel Kape. I think Manel Kape is overrated. I think he's low output. I think he's overrated. I think that people overhype him because they like him. But watching Muhammad Mokaev back, I think Muhammad Mokaev is not good at all. I mean, you know, Alex Perez, who's not known for his offensive wrestling, who's a decent grappler. I mean, he's a flyweight, ranked flyweight. So he's definitely got some competence when it comes to the grappling. Alex Perez is like sprawling takedowns and getting the better of Muhammad Mokaev. And, you know, you've got, what's his name? The old crafty vet. You got Tim Elliott, who's taking Muhammad Mokaev down in weird exchanges and, you know, maintaining top position and giving him a tough fight. Manel Kape, even though Manel Kape doesn't show his grappling that often, he has it. I think he's got the grappling just as much as an Alex Perez, okay? I think he's got the sprawl for takedown defense just as much as Alex Perez. I think he's also very strong and he's very explosive. He's stronger than Tim Elliott, and he's got better clinch striking than these guys too. Manel Kape's got nasty knees in the clinch. He's got good elbows in the clinch. I think both of these guys are overrated. To be honest, people don't really rate Muhammad Mokaev that highly, but he's the kind of guy that you would pick if you don't actually watch his fights back. And you're just like, well, maybe he could frustrate Manel Kape, who's kind of low output at times. And Manel Kape, you know, he's left fights up to the judges, close fights like his fight with Mateus Nicolau, where he's just simply not throwing enough. He's not as aggressive as he needs to be. But the reason I'm picking Manel Kape in this fight is because I honestly think he'll out-grapple Muhammad Mokaev at times. Now, Muhammad Mokaev's striking isn't as horrible as people make it out to be, but I think that's in front of guys like Tim Elliott. That's in front of guys like Alex Perez. I think Manel Kape will be able to make him pay more often for making mistakes and flailing his arms around. And, Muhammad Mokaev's got a decent front kick to the body. He's strong, and he can put a good amount of pressure on you, which is why this fight is interesting, because I could see him disrupting the rhythm of Manel Kape, who doesn't throw that much output. And I could see him stealing this fight on the scorecards with control time. But I think that Manel Kape will actually not only stuff takedowns, but I think he'll wind up on top of Muhammad Mokaev in wrestling exchanges. And I think he'll actually be able to out-grapple Muhammad Mokaev in some of these wrestling exchanges where Mokaev doesn't seem to take his time that often when he's looking for takedowns. I feel like he rushes things at times, and he makes mistakes, and that's how he was getting taken down at times by Tim Elliott. So I think Manel Kape wins this. I don't think he finishes Muhammad Mokaev, but I think he's going to mince him up a bit in the clinch. He's going to have his moments on the feet, and even though Muhammad Mokaev will maybe get a couple of takedowns, maybe he'll hold Manel Kape up against the fence, I think there are going to be moments where Manel Kape actually reverses Muhammad Mokaev and sprawls a takedown or something like that, and actually gets top control or, lands ground and pound shots. And I think the judges are going to look at those exchanges paired with his success on the feet, his more significant strikes, and I think he's going to win this battle. So Manel Kape will win this by decision. I'm going to go with the 29-28 for Manel Kape. Let's get on to the next one. Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze. I'm going to go with Giga Chikadze. I'm joking. I'm going with Arnold Allen, okay? Giga Chikadze's fight with Alex Caceres was just too close. I'm sorry. It was too close. It was too close. And I'm not even going to look into the stylistic difference. Well, Caceres is more of a free-flowing striker, and he's got the funky style, and he throws a lot of kicks. Arnold Allen is 10 times faster than Alex Caceres. He hits harder than Alex Caceres. He's more elite. Arnold Allen took 2 rounds off of Max Holloway, okay? He won his last fight against Movsar Evloev. He handed Evloev his first L. He won the first round, okay? And he won the third round. Arnold Allen, in my opinion, has only lost to one person, and that is Max Holloway. Now, Giga Chikadze, back in the day, used to be an issue, used to be a big problem. He's pretty durable. People thought just because he had a P head and he's got the incel head that he wouldn't have a good chin, but he actually proved that he was very tough against Calvin Kattar. But that fight took years off of his career. It led to injuries. Those injuries led to more injuries, and he took like 2.5 years off. And he looked ring rusted in his last outing. And it's not like his last outing was only 4 months ago, and now he's active again. He took a whole other year off. His last fight was in August on the Singapore card of last year. And he's fighting in July, like basically 11 months out. And this guy's fought, once in the last 4 fucking years? And he looked ring rusted. He looked a little bit tired. He looked slow. I expected him to dog walk Alex Caceres, and he won that fight, but the rounds were too close for his own good when it comes to who I'm going to be picking here. I think Arnold Allen is way faster than him. I think Arnold Allen, if he's outboxing Max Holloway in the 5th round of their fight, where he's got Max backing up and he's piecing Max up on the back foot, and he's winning the majority of striking exchanges deep into a fight where we were saying, I said back in the day Arnold Allen had low output. Well, he actually had decent output in that fight, and he was outputting Max Holloway in the 5th round of a 5-rounder, which is pretty crazy. I don't think Giga Chikadze's the same guy as he used to be, and I think that without that extra speed, I think he's much less dangerous, okay? I think without that extra speed, the odds of him slipping a head kick by the guard of Arnold Allen decrease. And I think Arnold Allen's jab is good. I think his kicks are good. I think his body shots are good. I think his overhands are good. And I even think that he's got a serious physicality advantage, and we may see him mix in the takedowns in this fight and easily win. And it just comes back to this. If you're having a close fight with Alex Caceres and you're looking declined and you take a whole other year off, I mean, how old is Giga Chikadze? He's 35 years old, and he's about to turn 36. I'm going with Arnold Allen. I just think it's a big jump up in competition. I think Arnold Allen is better than Calvin Kattar as well. All right, we've seen Arnold Allen. He's got elbows too. He's got inside striking too. So I'm going with Allen on this one. I think he's going to easily beat Giga Chikadze. I think it's either going to be a 30-27, a 30-26, or we may even see a finish from Arnold Allen if he rocks Giga Chikadze with the right shot. But it should be a fun one, should be a good striking battle, but this is an easy pick. On to the next one, Christian Leroy Duncan versus Gregory Rodriguez. I'm going to go with Gregory Rodriguez, and I'm going to pick him to win this fight via TKO on the ground. All right, now this is a risky pick because Christian Leroy Duncan has power, he's got speed, and he's been dominating his past opponents, but the same people that he's beating, Gregory Rodriguez has beat, and he's beaten them better. All right, Dennis Loughran got beat by Christian Leroy Duncan in the second round, and to be fair, Duncan did kind of destroy him for the whole fight, but, there were some stinky exchanges where they were clinching on the fence. Gregory Rodriguez simply took down Loughran and destroyed him and TKO'd him as soon as the fight hit the mat. Also, Gregory Rodriguez has even put away the Iron Turtle. Gregory Rodriguez has insanely good grappling. He even took down Brad Tavares on a couple of occasions, which is very impressive because even though he didn't finish Brad Tavares on the ground, he finished him on the feet, which is also in and of itself impressive because Brad Tavares is super, super tough. Just taking him down a couple of times goes to show how strong this guy is. Okay, so not only is Gregory Rodriguez got knockout power on the feet, and not only is he dangerous, not only does he impose his will, but he's also got the ground game where he can TKO people and he could submit people, and I believe he's even better on the ground. And I think that Christian Leroy Duncan, he's just not beaten the sorts of people that I need to see him beat to make me think that he can handle Gregory Rodriguez. Yeah, he might be able to outstrike him. He might be able to knock him out because he'll have a slight speed advantage, and he's very unorthodox with the way that he strikes, and I could see him catching Gregory Rodriguez with something weird like a kick or maybe like a spinning back fist or something like that, a flying knee even. But I just think that, Gregory Rodriguez looked a lot better against Armen Petrosyan, and Christian Leroy Duncan just kind of got shut down effortlessly, and Gregory Rodriguez has this whole other side to his game, and I have yet to see Christian Leroy Duncan prove that he can get past that sort of grappling threat. So I think Rodriguez has more ways to win, and I think that Christian Leroy Duncan still hasn't proven his cardio that much. So I'm going to go with Rodriguez by TKO on the ground. I think he's going to take Christian Leroy Duncan down, and I think he's going to out-grapple him and TKO him. So that is my pick. I could see Duncan knocking him out. I think Duncan's faster. I think he's a slightly better striker, but I think the threat of the takedown, if it's established early, will get Gregory Rodriguez this win. So let's get on to the next one. Bobby Green versus Paddy Pimblett. I'm going to go with Bobby Green, okay? I'm not going to change up my pick. I'm going with Bobby Green. I think that even though you could see Paddy Pimblett winning this fight, even though you could make the argument that he wins this fight, when you actually watch back his fights, his grappling isn't as dominant and it's not as secure and, it's not as much of a safe bet as you would imagine. The way he took down Tony Ferguson in the second round was by Tony Ferguson falling over himself. And the majority of the first round was on the feet. So it's not even like Paddy Pimblett was taking Tony down left and right. Like Tony literally just fell over himself. And the first round, he dropped Tony Ferguson to get him to the ground. Paddy Pimblett has good power. I could see Paddy Pimblett brutally KOing Bobby Green. And I kind of want to pick him for that because it just seems like something that we could get, like a star-aligning moment on the UK card where people think this is going to be the big fraud check. And everyone kind of expects Paddy to lose, but he goes out there and flatlines Bobby Green and brutally KOs him. And now people are talking about Pimblett being the real deal. I could see that happening because Green, he leaves his hands down. He is chinny and he doesn't have that much power. And Paddy Pimblett might be willing to take a couple of shots to land some of his own. But I think that if that doesn't happen and Paddy Pimblett attempts to grapple, I think Bobby Green's wrestling defense, I think Bobby Green's athleticism, I think his strength, I think it'll hold up. If Paddy Pimblett struggled to take down Jordan Levitt, if Paddy Pimblett struggled so much to take down Jared Gordon, and I understand Jared Gordon's a decent grappler and he's a tough out, but he really struggled to take down Jared Gordon. He's not this wrestler. Paddy Pimblett is not a great wrestler by any means. The way he takes people down and he works his way into the clinch and he goes for a trip, he goes for a hip toss. He's got good judo. I don't see him muscling Bobby Green up against the fence. I think Bobby Green's footwork is excellent. I think Bobby Green's ability to shuck off takedown attempts are pretty excellent. I think his ability to sprawl is pretty good too. He's fast. He's very fast. And I think that if Paddy Pimblett doesn't TKO Bobby Green, I don't expect him to get that back take and to, have it for the whole round and to keep Bobby Green on the ground easily. This ain't an old Tony Ferguson. And also, Bobby Green did better than Paddy Pimblett on the ground than Tony Ferguson. Than Paddy Pimblett. Bobby Green beat the shit out of Tony Ferguson on the ground. Paddy Pimblett was landing little pipsqueak shots, little pitter-pats. Not that he didn't do well, but, in the third round, he was kind of gassed. He was kind of tired, and he was landing little minor strikes on the ground against Tony Ferguson, really exerting most of his effort to keeping Tony down rather than doing a lot of damage. And we didn't see the submission. We didn't see the head and arm triangle. Bobby Green submitted Tony Ferguson. Bobby Green beat the dog crap out of Tony Ferguson on the ground. I think that Green's grappling, and I think that his takedown defense and his speed and his footwork is going to be trouble for a guy like Paddy Pimblett, who's not a great wrestler. And I think, again, if Paddy doesn't land that bomb, the damage is going to start to tally up in the favor of Bobby Green. The eye of Paddy Pimblett is going to start to get bruised up, right? His nose is going to start to get busted up. He's going to start bleeding. And I think that once Bobby Green gets into one of those rhythms where he's, midway through the second round and in the third round, and he's flowing and he's landing three-piece combinations and getting out the way, and he's starting to gain his confidence, I think that that's going to be demoralizing for Paddy Pimblett. And for a guy like Paddy who tends to slow down as fights go on, I think that Green is only going to get more successful and more confident, and Paddy Pimblett is going to wane, and his confidence is going to fall off a little bit. So I'm going to go with Bobby Green. He looked really good in his last fight. And you know what? I actually think Jim Miller is pretty solid. And I picked Jim Miller to beat Bobby Green, and I thought he was going to KO Bobby Green. And I know Paddy Pimblett is bigger than Jim Miller. I know that he's more in his prime than Jim Miller. But Jim Miller's got a lot of experience, and he was the guy that I thought was going to TKO Green and submit him and, take his back. And I don't see Pimblett being this excellent grappler. I don't. He's good. He's a good grappler. I just don't think that Bobby Green has that much of a hole in his ground game to where Paddy Pimblett's going to be able to dominate him. So I'm going with Bobby Green. I think he's going to beat up Pimblett. I think he's going to win 2 out of the 3 rounds. I think he's going to get a 29-28 decision, maybe a third round TKO. But yeah, I could see Paddy Pimblett knocking this dude the fuck out. So do not, say, Lucas, you thought that this was such an easy fight. I don't. Bobby Green's chinny. He's very chinny. Okay? And Paddy Pimblett has a decent chin, and he's willing to eat a couple of shots to land some of his own. But, the whole first round with Paddy Pimblett and Tony Ferguson, they're having a competitive battle on the feet. Tony Ferguson was losing that striking battle to Bobby Green for the entirety of the fight, outside of a couple of moments here and there where Tony Ferguson dropped him. So I could see Pimblett flatlining him, but I'm going with Bobby Green. If he doesn't get finished, which I think he might not get finished, and I think he has very good recovery, I think he wins this, and I don't think Paddy Pimblett's grappling is dominant enough for me to pick him to control Bobby Green or get a bunch of takedowns. So I'm going with Green by decision. Let's get on to the next one. Tom Aspinall versus Plotty Man Blaydes. This is so easy. Tom Aspinall is going to knock Curtis Blaydes out in the first round. Curtis Blaydes is so plotty. Okay? Curtis Blaydes is such a heavyweight. Dude, this guy is so slow on the feet. And he's good compared to Chris Daukaus. This guy went around with Chris Daukaus before he knocked him out in the second. Just the fact that he's having a striking battle with Chris Daukaus in the first round. I know he beat him. I know he was winning the striking battle. I get that. I get that he's by the book. I get that he's technical, but he's your average decent heavyweight. He's your average powerful good heavyweight. He's got a long reach. His 1-2s are going to be an issue for Tom Aspinall. I watched their first fight, of course. I know that Aspinall was kind of putting himself in danger, and it looked like Curtis Blaydes was getting close to landing a big punch. But if you guys watch that fight back, you'll notice that within the first 5 seconds, Tom Aspinall takes a weird step on that knee that he injured, and you can tell that he took a very awkward step on it. And I think that he freaked out, and I think he just went after it and fell over himself after landing a couple of kicks. This is a different fight. Tom Aspinall is one of the only heavyweights that is very fast. He's moving around. He's got great lateral movement. He's got good head movement where people are throwing 1-2s and he's dipping off to the side. He's getting out of the way. He's fast. He has one-shot KO power. All right, Curtis Blaydes did pretty well against Sergey Pavlovich, right? Curtis Blaydes was winning the fight with Sergey Pavlovich up until the 2-minute mark. Like, he was winning the first opening couple of minutes, even though it was competitive. Sergey Pavlovich does not have the same one-punch KO power. He doesn't have KOs where he's just knocked someone out with one punch outside of the Shamil Abdurakhimov KO. How many times have we seen Tom Aspinall just throw people across the octagon with a punch, right? I mean, we've seen it with Sergey Spivak. He caught him with an elbow and Sergey Spivak went flying. We've seen it with Sergey Pavlovich. One big nasty punch rocks him. He follows up and he's out of there. We saw it with Marcin Tybura. One big right hand and he's on the ground and he's getting Shellys, big Shelly. We've seen Tom Aspinall piece up Volkov and then take him down with effortless takedowns. And also Curtis Blaydes, yes, he hurt Jailton Almeida in the second round. He actually caught him with a nice uppercut before Jailton Almeida even dove on his leg in the second round, which was pretty good. But Jailton Almeida is so predictable. You know what's coming. All right, with Tom Aspinall, you don't know if it's the double leg, you don't know if it's a leg kick, and you don't know if it's like a 1-2 down the pipe. Jailton Almeida was only shooting takedowns. That's the only thing you have to expect about him. And also, it's not like Curtis Blaydes just knocked him out on the feet. Almeida got cut with an uppercut. He shot a takedown, and he was hanging on his leg like an idiot. And Curtis Blaydes started teeing off on him. Tom Aspinall, if Jailton Almeida can take this dude down like 10 times in the first round, Tom Aspinall can take him down. And Tom Aspinall is bigger than Jailton Almeida, and I think he's a better grappler than Jailton Almeida. So Aspinall wins this however the fuck he wants. If he takes down Curtis Blaydes, he'll submit him. All right? If he wants to stand with Curtis Blaydes, he'll leg kick on the outside. He'll get Curtis Blaydes to throw a right hand, and he'll counter. Because Curtis Blaydes, like any of these other heavyweights, is slow as fuck compared to Aspinall. He's powerful. He's got good basics, but he's jittery. All right? Not only does Curtis Blaydes do the jitterbug when he gets hit, he's jittery. This is the thing that we have to talk about. Blaydes, when he fights the big, powerful KO artists, freezes up and second guesses everything that he does. He's had easy fights against any other fighter, or he's had, seamless victories against every other fighter. Derek Lewis, he's jittery on the feet, right? He shoots a plotty takedown at the waistline and gets uppercut KO'd. Francis Ngannou, he gets knocked out twice. Sergey Pavlovich, he's standing with him. He's shooting plotty takedowns. He shoots one takedown and that's it. Tom Aspinall is more dangerous than all of these guys. And since these guys have fought last, Curtis Blaydes has seen 2 more KOs that Tom Aspinall's got. That's going to be looming in his head. Now, Tom Aspinall is going to be a little bit nervous going into this because even though he knows logically he's in a different condition and his shins aren't as brittle, his knee isn't as brittle as it was going into the last fight. The last time he fought Curtis Blaydes, he got a horrible injury and he lost. And, there could be a bit of a mental block going into this. And he could start the fight a little bit awkward, but you just can't pick Curtis Blaydes. I'm sorry, you can't pick Curtis Blaydes. It's the wrong pick. Aspinall has one-shot KO power. He's got amazing footwork for a heavyweight. He throws great kicks on the outside. He can mix in the takedowns effortlessly. He's got submissions. I know Blaydes is a big heavyweight. He's too slow. He's too plotty. Tom Aspinall is going to flatline KO him in the first round. And I think Curtis Blaydes is yet again going to fall short from beating the best fighters in this division. So let's get on to the next one. This should be an easy fight for Tom Aspinall. 36-year-old Belal Muhammad versus 32-year-old Leon Edwards, who's in his prime, who's beat 3 wrestlers in a row. They're fighting again, and the first fight, Leon Edwards pretty much had his way with Belal Muhammad in the first round. I'm not saying he totally dominated, but he's flustered Belal Muhammad and won the first round pretty clearly. And I know that doesn't necessarily tell us everything, but listen, Leon Edwards is the younger guy. Belal Muhammad's 36. Not that it's impossible to win a title at the age of 36 at welterweight, but that's one advantage for Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards, in his last 3 fights, has prepared for a wrestler. Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman. But what about the pace of Belal Muhammad? He prepared for Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman. So he's dealt with three training camps with 2 heavy pressure wrestlers back to back. And I think Belal's going to do a lot better than Colby Covington. I think he is going to be more aggressive. He's got great body kicks, okay? He's got good takedowns. He's strong. I think he's bigger and stronger than Colby. He's got good takedowns. He's got a great ability to game plan. That's not enough. Belal Muhammad's body kicks, that is the best thing that he does. Body kicks and head kicks. And he launches body kicks and he leaps into them. They seem very damaging. And maybe that's going to get to the gas tank of Leon Edwards a little bit. But Belal Muhammad is a guy that basically skirts around the outside and picks his moments to throw kicks at his opponents and backs up and every once in a while shoots a takedown. He has a very similar style to Leon Edwards on the feet. Leon Edwards is a guy that likes to move around with his back up against the fence, lots of lateral movement, likes to pick his shots and throw a lot of kicks, throw a lot of body kicks, and every now and then he'll go for a takedown. Leon Edwards is probably, think about it like this. Belal Muhammad took down Vicente Luque a couple of times, right? It's Vicente Luque. He's plotty, he's slow, he's marching into range, and Belal Muhammad is matching Vicente Luque's march into range with a blast double leg down the pipe, and he's taking him down. But even in that fight, it's very competitive. Belal Muhammad's not like pushing the pace. He's not the super aggressive striker, right? You got a guy like Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman is the guy that's going to give Leon Edwards issues because he's always on the front foot. If you look at Belal Muhammad in his last fight against Gilbert Burns, he is for quite a long time in that fight, just skirting around the outside of the cage and chucking kicks at range, right? He's not this like crazy pressure grappler. Fair enough against Wonderboy Thompson. He got a bunch of takedowns and he beat the shit out of Wonderboy, but it's 10 times harder to take down Leon Edwards than it is to take down Wonderboy, okay? Leon Edwards is much stronger than Wonderboy Thompson, and I think what we're going to get in this fight is we're going to get the classic case of anything you can do, I can do better. I think that Belal Muhammad, even though he's looking to be aggressive in this fight, he's not fearing Leon Edwards because Edwards doesn't get a lot of finishes. It's easier said than done. A lot of guys, they talk a big game and then they get in there with Leon Edwards and they realize he's a little bit faster than they expected. His distance management, even though he's low output, even though he's boring, his distance management is the best in that division. He's really difficult to hit. And if you've got a guy like Belal Muhammad, who is shorter, who's stockier, who doesn't even push the pace that often, who's not spamming takedowns like a Merab Dvalishvili. He doesn't spam takedowns. He shoots them every once in a while. He's got a good gas tank. He's strong. He can get the takedowns, but Leon Edwards has proven he can get back up. You've got a guy like Belal Muhammad who doesn't even push the pace that much, who is for the most part an outside striker, who does a lot of lateral movement. Leon Edwards is going to do the same thing. It's just that he's rangier. He's better at managing distance. He's faster. Listen, I think Belal is just outgunned here. I think that Leon Edwards is very similar on the feet, and Leon does what Belal does better. Okay, Belal's pressure game, it's nothing special. He's got great wins. He's got a great ability to game plan, but so does Leon Edwards. And the thing is, Leon Edwards is also really good in the clinch. Leon Edwards has great knees. He's got great elbows. And Belal Muhammad, when he's going for takedowns, when he's trying to close the distance, I think he's going to be getting caught with those knees, with those elbows. The head kicks are going to be giving him issues. And I just see Belal, after the opening couple of minutes, resorting to a more timid game plan, resorting to a more wrestling-heavy game plan. And I think Edwards is going to stuff the takedowns, or when he gets taken down, get up to his feet fairly easily. And I think he's going to win a very lackluster, boring decision. I see Belal Muhammad getting one of these rounds, maybe two, getting a takedown, getting some control time after having an okay round on the feet, because Leon doesn't throw a lot of output. He tends to leave things pretty close. He does just enough. I think we're going to see a classic Leon Edwards performance, just enough from Leon Edwards. He's going to outkick Belal Muhammad at range. He's going to out-clinch strike Belal Muhammad. He's younger. He's got the home field advantage. And Belal is not this guy that has a crazy pressure game like people think. And I've seen them fight before, and I think Leon's going to pick up right where he left off. Now, could Belal Muhammad just fucking bring the fight to Leon Edwards and bring him into a dogfight? He could, but Belal just doesn't have a lot of pop. If only he had power, right? You would expect a guy like Kamaru Usman, who's got tons of pressure, who can also mix up the takedowns, who's got the championship experience, who's got a long reach, an even longer reach than Leon Edwards. You'd expect that to be the type of guy to have Leon Edwards fear him. Leon Edwards does not have to respect the power of Belal Muhammad, just like Belal Muhammad does not have to respect the power of Leon Edwards. But the difference is one guy is much more likely to land a head kick over the other. So I'm going to go with Leon. I think that if you were to have this version of Belal fighting Leon Edwards in 2020 in Salt Lake City, or I'm sorry, 2022 in Salt Lake City, maybe he wins this fight. I'm talking about Belal. But Leon has fought 3 difficult matchups in a row, 2 against Usman, 1 against Colby Covington. And Leon took down Colby, man. I could even see him taking down Belal. He's got really underrated grappling, really underrated jiu-jitsu. And his cardio is not that great. That's the one thing where maybe Belal can win the 5th round or win one of the later rounds. But I just think early on, Leon's too sharp. He's too fast. He should win this fight on the scorecards pretty handily. 48-47 for Leon Edwards or 49-46. I'll go with the 49-46. Maybe a TKO. I could see Leon maybe hurting Belal with a knee, maybe a head kick early, because he hurt him with a head kick in the first fight and wobbled him a little bit. So we could get some of that. I honestly hope that we see Belal Muhammad knock Leon out. I think that'd be the coolest outcome. It'd be pretty epic to see Belal get a upset finish where he's the Mr. Decision guy. It would be pretty surreal, be pretty crazy. It'd be a spectacle. But I don't think we're going to see that. So Leon Edwards by decision. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Until next time.